friends, welcome to Canadian Cutting Edge, and this is the Sencut Toxodon. I reviewed this knife a month and a half ago or so, and I liked it for the most part. There was one big issue that I came across, and that was because these screws in the handle are thread lockered. They used thread locker on these screws, and I could not get them undone using, the standard traditional ways. I use drive grip. If you haven't heard of that stuff, link up there to a video where that is. That's a compound that you put between the screwdriver and the screw in between there, and it's got grit in it, and it helps you, not strip things out, hopefully. And it works very, very well most of the time, unless it's just so seized together that you just can't do anything about it. So I'm going to title this video, at least initially, Disassemble Your Knife with a Soldering Iron. I mentioned that during the video that I was going to try that. Now, I'll be totally transparent here. Maybe somebody else has talked about using a soldering iron to do the kind of thing I'm going to do, but I haven't consciously remembered that detail. If somebody has done it before, maybe I'm the first one to do it. I don't know. But the big thing is heat can very often break down thread locker. Sometimes what I've suggested to some people is, you stick it in boiling hot water. So that's 100 degrees Celsius, whatever that is in Fahrenheit, for a while to heat it all up. Now that does work sometimes. So it's not something you just, that doesn't work. Some people just say that doesn't work. Well, no, it doesn't work all the time, but it does work sometimes. So it's worth giving it a try, especially on a fixed blade knife like this. Who cares if a little bit of moisture sits in there for a little while, because it's a stainless steel blade. Yes, stainless can corrode and rust, but it's not as big a deal as it is with a folding knife. Yeah, tried that. That didn't do anything with this. So I don't have a soldering iron, or I didn't have a soldering iron. So I went to Amazon and I bought a cheap soldering iron. This is a 80-watt soldering iron in a kit, and I'll show it to you. And I'm going to try to apply heat to this and try to take these screws out. I like to be able to take my knives apart, for one. And my second main complaint with this knife is that the handle's so thin. What I'm hoping to do is buy some other screws eventually, unless these ones are long enough, have enough bite when you take them out, and just add like 1 millimeter or 1.5 millimeter liner to either side, just to bulk it up a little bit. And that, I think, would improve this knife an awful lot. It's still a pretty good knife. So if you haven't seen the review for the Toxodon, it'll be linked at the very end. Otherwise, just stick around and see if a soldering iron can help you take a knife apart. All right, I'm getting set up. I've got a little, that looks kind of gimmicky. That's just sort of a holder for the soldering iron so I don't burn myself as easy or burn something else down. There's a power switch on this thing, so I'm going to turn that on. And there does come a reading on there for how hot it's going to be. So I'm going to set it at 300 Celsius. Why? I don't know, because that's what I set it at. It comes with a variety of different tips. I found a tip that seems to fit quite well in there, so hopefully it'll transfer the heat well. And I know some people are going to complain that this too much introduction, too much going on, and just show me the results. Well, go ahead, skip forward if that's what you want to do. I'm going to protect myself by taping over the cutting edge of this thing and protecting the blade. Yeah, it's a little bit duller than usual now because I've done all my testing and everything on it and haven't sharpened it since then. And let me just cover the tip of that a little bit. Just lower the risk of me cutting myself, because nobody likes cutting themselves. Also, you may have seen this a long time ago. I've got a clamp that I've used a number of times, especially in the past. I use that when I need to hold on to something And let's stand this guy up sort of straight. I'll start right at the end of the handle, back here. And I don't know, is this going to give me... Probably should have read the instructions. I got wood right here. I can tell when it's hot. It's starting to burn a tiny bit there. Give it a little bit more time. I'll just have to skip forward. I'm just going to put it in there. I'm going to try to pay attention to see if this G10 gets kind of melty or not. So maybe I'll turn it over a little bit like this. Yes, I do know the risk. I might discolor these screws. I might temper the snot out of them, making them super soft. It's no big loss, because if I can't take it apart, it's just like I started with. And if I can, all the better. And I don't want to heat up the whole head of the screw. I just want to get into, down in there. So hopefully the threads warm up. Let's see. Yeah, it's not super hot. It's taken a long time to burn. I have a feeling that that's not really hot enough. So let's hit these plus signs. Okay, set at 400 now. Let's just see. I'm going to wait for a minute or two. Just let it get a little hotter. Oh, yeah. That's hotter. Let's try that. And the other side. All right, that's about a minute on each side. Now I got to put this down. Have it sit there. Remember, that's hot. This is hot too. And let's just try my screwdriver. Actually, I'm going to turn this around. That still feels very tight. I don't want to strip it out any more than I have. Try this side. Is that turning along? But that's still very tight. So let's set this to its maximum setting. Looks like 520 is probably the max that this thing can do. All right, yeah. Look at that. It's a totally different color tip. It's got blue. This is hot now. All right, let's try this again. Put that on there and get some heat into that screw. And try the other side for about a minute as well. All right. Okay. Let's put it back on here. Okay, it's just, that moved. Actually, I'm going to turn the power off, just in case. Let's see. Let's try to turn that. It looks like it's turning. Now, I don't know, is the whole thing turning? I'm going to have to be able to see both sides. Let me get another T8 screw driver. And that didn't work yet. So that side didn't stay hot. And that side's not hot. I'm going to try heat again. Let's see. There you go. That's hot in a hurry. So let's try this again. And let's count the seconds. There we go. Don't think I was getting enough heat into it deep enough. You know, this isn't a super way to transfer heat. It's just I needed something with a fine point because I really don't want to melt the G10. So let's see how hot that still is. Okay, it's still pretty hot. And this side. And don't worry if you're thinking, well, if you let it cool down, then it's going to be all hard again. No, the heat, destroys the thread locker, or at least damages it, breaks it down enough that even if it gets cold now, the thread locker is not going to hold as much as it did before. All right, so that's about a minute on each side. Let's lift that back up again. Try to put that on there. Let that sit there. Let's see. Okay, that's turning. Is it turning on the other side as well? Doesn't look like it is. It probably is. Let's try the other side. Well, at least it's freer in there. Yeah, I'm going to try a little bit longer. I'm going to have to put that back in the vise because since it's free spinning, I'm going to need to be able to hold 2 screwdrivers at the same time. It's just the nature of the beast. Can you imagine if I released a real-time version of this? How long it takes? Yeah, there'd be 3 or 4 people that'll watch it. I'm sure of that. But certainly not the vast majority of you. All right, so we'll try that again. So here we got a T8. Get that in there. Probably should. If this feels like it's going to slip, I'm going to use that drive grip there as well. I think that's working. Yeah, that's working. It's coming loose. So proof of concept, yes. You need a high heat source, and it didn't melt the G10. So there you go. So that's the screw. Wonder how hot that is. That's a fixed shank. So sometimes they're made with screws that go in on both ends, and it's got a floating tube thing. That's not how these are. And that's not very deep thread, so if I add thickness to this, this won't work. And that end is stripped out anyways. If it was just the screw head that was stripped out, yeah, I could just replace the screw with the longer screw maybe. But I'm going to need to buy new screws. But I'm just going to do this to the rest of them and then finish taking it apart. I think I found my new way to fix these things. Don't think there's much discoloration here. Let's take a look at this one since it's cooled off. Yeah, there's no discoloration on the screw head itself. Yeah, 520 degrees Celsius it says. You know, it's a pretty cheap soldering iron, so I don't really know if that's true or not. Yep, this one's turning now as well. Now, I don't know why I never thought of this a long time ago. I've got a lot of, not a lot, I've got family that are in the automotive mechanic industry. You know, they use thread locker a lot, and they use heat to defeat thread locker. So, don't know why I never thought of trying that before. There we go. There you go. Let's undo this. So those of you who are curious, that's what the inside looks like, which doesn't surprise me at all. And tiny bit of warmth in here. Totally, you know, not hot to the touch at all, just tiny bit of warmth in that anyway. So that's not, it's not near the cutting edge anyway, so it's never been a risk. But, you know, if I heat the very edge, the cutting edge, yeah. But this tiny bit of heat here, not a concern at all for the temper of the knife. And yeah, these have cooled down already. Yeah. So there you go. Since these are shot, I'm going to have to find a place where I can buy some more of these. I'm sure AliExpress will have something, but I'll see where I can find them. You know, I'll measure the thickness of the shaft and everything, and because I don't just want to replace these with the same thing. I could contact Sencut and see if I can buy new screws, but I want longer ones, like I said earlier, because I want to be able to put on thicker handle scales. I still stand by this product. I really do like drive grip, but don't put too much stress on it. If it just feels like it's not going to come out, I suggest get yourself a budget. I forget what price this was. For Canadian viewers, I'll have this link down below, and if they've got this same model on Amazon United States, Amazon.com, I'll link this model down below as well to make it easier for you to get them. If you use my Amazon referral link, I get a few percent back, maybe 50 cents per soldering iron or whatever it is. It really helps me out. And if you use my link from Amazon, my referral links, and then you go buy something else on Amazon, as long as you opened up the Amazon browser using my link, then no matter what you buy, I'll get a tiny commission out of it. And those tiny commissions add up, to a little bit, just helps me afford to buy some stuff, inexpensive stuff. It's not a lot of money. It's a very tiny bit of money in the grand scheme of things. Even in the small scheme of things, it's not much money, but it does help. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. And remember, friends, cut towards your chum, not your thumb. And don't cut anything when you're working on your knife. Bye for now.